This question is a GCSE question and it relates to the new specification for first exam in 2018. Reading through the question, it says, plant seeds store food. This food needs to be available for when the seed germinates. Figure 11 shows a section through a barley seed. Figure 11 shows a section through a barley seed. The following are the steps in the germination of a barley seed. Step 1, water enters the seed and a hormone is released from the embryo. Step 2, this hormone stimulates DNA in the cells of the alurone layer. Step 3, genes in the cells of the alurone layer produce proteins including enzymes. Step 4, enzymes move to the endosperm. Step 5, one enzyme breaks down starch in the endosperm into sugars. And step 6, sugars are transported to the embryo for growth. Okay, now by the time you've read that, you panicked because you're thinking, I haven't learnt all this. But let's see what the question demands of us. Name one plant hormone. Well, easy peasy. The most obvious one to go for is, of course, an auxin. The next part of the question says, in step 3, genes produce proteins. Genes are sections of DNA. Describe how genes produce proteins. So there are 4 marks for this, so we're going to move through it really sequentially. We're going to say that a gene is a sequence of bases, that 3 bases code for 1 amino acid, that the order of bases controls the order of amino acids, and the amino acids are assembled to make a specific protein. Now, in reading the examiner's report, there's quite a few interesting things about this question that don't appear if you just look at the mark scheme. The first thing is that they want you to use the word code. They didn't accept answers if you said, for example, 3 bases make 1 amino acid or 3 bases produce 1 amino acid. You needed the word code. The other interesting things, which is really easy to make a mistake on, is that they wanted you to say that the amino acids are assembled to make a specific protein. You can't just say amino acids make proteins because amino acids don't make proteins. Proteins are made up from amino acids, but amino acid isn't a machine that makes a protein. An amino acid is part of a protein. So those 2 words, code and assembled, should become part of your vocabulary when you're talking about genes, amino acids and proteins. The next question says, the enzyme in step 5 it breaks down starch into sugars. Suggest the name of this enzyme. And the name of the enzyme is amylase. You couldn't say carbohydrates because carbohydrates is a type of enzyme. If you're asked for the name, they want the specific name. You know that the answer isn't maltase because maltase acts on maltose and it doesn't act on starch. Amylase digests starch into maltose, which is then acted on by maltase to make glucose. Remember, that's a 2-step reaction. The next part of the question says the sugars are used for growth by the barley embryo. Explain how. So how are sugars going to be used to produce growth when we know that growth depends on protein, depends on amino acids? Well, what we're going to say is that sugars are used for respiration. That releases energy. Remember, we don't say it produces energy because you can't produce energy. You can only release energy. We're then going to say that that energy is used to make proteins. It's either, or it can be used to make amino acids, cellulose, which is for plant cell walls, or for mitosis. So my top tip for this question is to make sure you've got your wording correct. You can know all the biology in the world, but without using the correct words like code instead of make and assembled instead of amino acids make proteins, you just won't get the marks. I hope you found the video useful, especially as this is information, this is content that is very likely to come up in the new spec.